Hi there. I can't see any of you. That's fun. So, I don't know if any of you ever went to Catholic school, but if you did, you know that there's this thing with the uniform store, where every year, or every other year, you go to the uniform store and you get polo shirts, or stiff navy blue pants, or something plaid. And when I was 7 years old, my mom was taking me to the uniform store. I think it was the second time I was going into second grade. And I went in with my mom, and there's this lady working there, and she's got a royal blue suit on that looks like it's from an 80s soap opera, and she's wearing maroon lipstick, and her nails are painted scarlet, and even at 7 years old, I'm thinking, that clashes. My mom and I walk over to the sign labeled Queen of Angels, because that's the school I went to at the time, and we, in particular this year, needed pants. So my mom grabbed some pants, and we went to the dressing room, and I tried on a pair of pants, and they were just so tight. And I buckled them, and that hurt. They were really snug. And I sat down, because my mom always said, sit down and make sure they really fit, because they'll be tighter when you sit down. And they cut into the flesh of my stomach. I mean, they didn't draw blood, but like I felt that, And I said, Mom, I can't wear these. They're just way too tight. And so we went back out to the, you got a hint. We went back out to the main room, and the woman in the royal blue suit who's working there and just kind of doodling on the cash register or whatever. And my mom goes, are there any sizes bigger than those ones? Because I'd had the biggest sizes on that rack. And the woman says, the husky sizes are over there. Husky. As a wordy 7-year-old kid, I kind of knew that that word was a word for a really sweaty, fat old man, or a dog that prances in the snow. And I thought, is that what I am? Oh. And that word, husky, just sort of branded me. Like it was a part of my skin, like it was under my skin and in my DNA. And it hurt so bad to be called that. And when that happened, a wall went up. And I didn't know how to close it, and it stayed there. That summer that I was 7 years old was the last time I wore a bathing suit for 10 years. It was the last time I remember my body not being a problem, a big issue. It was the first year or time that I didn't cry myself to sleep because I was fat, and it sucked. And that wall stayed up and protected me and made it really hard to open myself up to people. And it was still up when I was like 12 or 13, and I started reading teen magazines, which were really good for my self-esteem because all the girls in there are gorgeous and tall and about this big around, and I wasn't. And that stopped. But around that same time, there were all these articles about girls losing their virginity. And, some girls regretted the choice, some didn't. There were pledges from girls waiting till they were married, whatever. And it made me think, when am I going to have sex? And so I thought about it, and I decided I wasn't going to wait till I was married. That just wasn't the choice for me. But I was going to wait until I was at least 16, and I was in love. Well, 16 rolled around. I was still fat, still had a wall. Didn't happen. And then of started falling for this boy. And it was like something was expanding in my solar plexus, and it was full of air, and it was buoying me. And it was the most amazing thing in the world. It was wonderful. And he was the first person I felt like I didn't have to hide around. He was the first person I thought viewed the world just the way I did, not ideologically, but just like people and their relationships and the way they navigated each other. And finally finding somebody who was just like me in that way was amazing. And when I was with him, I was sweet and open, and this version of myself I didn't know could exist, and I fell in love with that version of myself while I fell in love with him. And then, one day, I found out that he didn't feel the same. And that sucked. So, that night, I was in my friend's room, and I was numbing myself. Pardon me. And I remember that this was fall, and Lady Gaga was on SNL. And even though I was pretty far gone, I was coherent enough to look at the TV and see her covered in bubbles and think, what the fuck is that? And that was about 2 seconds before I turned to my friend, who was holding me in his big calloused hands, letting me cry for hours. And I said, I know we're friends, and I know I'm drunk, but can we make out a little bit? And then he became a spare umbrella. It's not sturdy enough or big enough to really shield you in a storm, but it'll do in a pinch. And so here I am, with all the things that I can't help carrying around. And they're in my skin. As much as that fucking word husky, they're with me, and that's just it. But I want to let them go. And while I can't totally do that, I can make them a little less important. Like my spare umbrella. We never agreed that we would just be each other's only spare umbrellas. There was never a discussion like that. But I thought he knew me well enough to know that I couldn't be anybody's spare umbrella when that person was having several other spare umbrellas. And that was really disappointing and disgusting. And the fact that he acts like nothing ever happened is something I can't navigate right now. And him, he who told me that he loved me with all his heart as a friend, I'm still in love with him. And I don't know if I'm ever not going to be. But I do know that he doesn't realize that he's leading me on, and that I can tell him, and that maybe then I'll be able to let it go. And then there's this husky. Screw that word, and screw everything it did to me. Screw the fact that it made me constantly compare myself to other girls all my life. Look at her. Is she skinnier than I am? Is she my size? I feel like I'm so much bigger than her, but she says she wears my size. Screw that. And screw Catholic school, because that fucks you up. And screw all my other ways of hiding. The thing is, I have to trust that I'm enough without the shields or the clothes or the act. And, you know, that's something, these are really hard to get off, by the way. That's something that I've never been able to do before, but I'm gonna do. I'm getting the word trust tattooed on the bottom of my right foot in probably less than 2 months. And I'm terrified by that. But the thing is, that's the only word that I want branded on my skin for a permanent mark. Because the thing is, husky and lonely and spare, they're all gonna fade. Trust isn't gonna go away. And that is gonna shield me when the sky is falling down. And that's one pretty fucking sturdy umbrella.